Hey Sharif, loving the content, brother. And listen, I get that calorie banking can work in theory, like saving up calories for later in the day or for a night out on the weekends. But ultimately, every time I try it, I end up getting way too hungry, losing control, and overeating way past my initial calorie target. Am I doing something wrong, or is this just not right for me? Because honestly, it feels like I'm going round in circles. Please help me out, brother. Right, let's dive in. Now, I know you think you're being really smart, skipping breakfast and saving calories for a meal later on that day, or maybe even on the weekend. But here's the truth: calorie banking is making you fat. And if you're over 30 and you're trying to outsmart your cravings by under eating all day just to be good later, then keep watching because I'm going to show you exactly why that very strategy is backfiring and ultimately what to do instead so you can actually stay lean and enjoy your life and indeed your weekends and socials and all the stuff which I know you've got going on. And this isn't just theory, by the way. I've literally coached thousands of over 30s and busy professionals who are just stuck in this binge, restrict, guilt cycle where they couldn't break the weekends. And they came to me thinking they had a willpower problem, but it wasn't. It was actually a strategy problem. So I know it's very popular right now to do this calorie banking, robbing Peter to pay Paul type of method when it comes to managing your calories over a 7-day period. But I need to show you just how problematic it is. And like I say, what you can do instead. So come with me. It's probably going to be best if we kind of define terms so you actually know what on earth calorie banking is, what I'm going on about, and why it's potentially a problem, and the very thing which is keeping you stuck every single weekend. So the definition, as what I put here, is a strategic approach in nutrition, allowing you to quote unquote bank calories throughout the week to enjoy higher calorie foods and meals on specific days. Analogous to saving money so you have more to spend later. So again, we understand that metabolism doesn't just switch off after a 24-hour period. And it's now obvious that, okay, cool, it's more about what we do over the course of a 7-day period with our energy intake, with our calories, than what we do over a 24-hour one if we're looking for long-term body composition change and what have you. So if we kind of understand that concept and we're like, okay, cool, all is sounding good. If we just look at traditional dieting, basically how that works, right, is that you are going straight through a 7-day period in your calorie deficit, straight throughout the whole week, and the calories are exactly the same. So if we take this example below here, the weekly total is 1,400 calories in total, okay? And then the daily average is equaling 2,000 calories per day. And you can see this example just here, okay? Subject eats 2,000 calories every day. That puts him in a 500 calorie per day deficit. He loses a pound per week. Nice and easy, as an example, yeah? Okay, cool. But what calorie banking allows us to do is to give us some more freedom, some more room for flexibility over the course of the weekend. And as you can see, if we just rob Peter to pay Paul a bit, like I keep saying, we can actually eat a little bit less that day, a little bit less that day, a little bit less that day, if we consider that that's our calorie deficit where we need to be over the course of a week on average. And then by the time the weekend comes, well, hey, I can have a cocktail or two and I can enjoy a dessert and maybe even a roast dinner. And then we pull it back down a little bit so that we're achieving the same thing, right? So the weekly total is, again, 1,400. But the daily average is still 2,000. But we've had some low days, we've had some high days. So all is sounding pretty good. And it's like, all right, Sharif, like what exactly is wrong with this approach? I can literally have my cake and eat it. I can go to parties on the weekend, enjoy my socials, still stay lean. You're not really presenting me with why this is a problem so far. So like I say, sometimes things work absolutely impeccably well on paper, but when it comes to the practical application, it would be very silly of me as a coach to ignore what I was carrying on seeing with my clients and with numerous other people who had interactions with, who were trying to manipulate body composition with their food, and it just wasn't working out so well. So let me dive into that right now. So let's now think about the situation, right? You've been dieting all week, and by very definition, you've been on restricted calories. Now you want to restrict further than that, even by a meaningless 100 to 200 calories a day below your intake in which you're supposed to be at, so that you can make room for more indulgent foods on the weekends. The major problem, and the reason why I say that there's such a downside of this, is because it ramps up hunger massively. So much so that you become preoccupied with food. All you can think about is food. And now we have a situation whereby hormonally we are primed to want to eat more food because you've basically been starving yourself. Metabolically, we are ever so slightly suppressed. But again, we are now intuitively and psychologically looking forward to that highly palatable food so much, and are then presented with a situation whereby you can just have as much as you want, basically, even though you can't, because in your mind you've justified it. going into a situation hungry and all that's there to eat are highly calorie dense foods in which you can just smash back thousands of calories worth of pizza and cake and ice cream and whatever it may be over the course of a few minutes is never going to end well. You're never going to be able to have just a little bit of that indulgence which you actually saved up for, because once the floodgates open, you're going to go swimming, basically. And then what happens is every single Monday, you feel the guilt, you feel the shame, you feel the disappointment of getting back on plan again, only to lead you to restricting even harder, because now you're like, I'm really going to go for it this time. And you just keep pressing that willpower button, and the cycle unfortunately continues. Now, make no mistake about it. Myself, my clients, everyone inside 23 Lean, we love our weekends. We value our socials. We really want a nice life in order to, thrive and look good, as well as enjoy the finer things in life. But the way in which I suggest that you go about doing so is very different from the typical calorie banking jargon and strategy which most of the fitness industry is giving you, because like I've just pointed out, it often ends in a massive rebound coming your way. Here's what to do instead. Honestly, these 3 steps are going to change the game for you if you implement them. So let's dive in. The first thing that we are now going to do is understand and appreciate and realize that protein is the most satiating macronutrient. And if we have a bolus of protein, and not just protein for protein's sakes, but actual animal sources of protein which keep you satiated. So I'm not necessarily talking just about whey shakes here, but more things like Greek yogurt, like I say, animal products. And you want to pair that with high volume and low friction meals. So big chicken salads, big tuna salads. You want to be thinking things like your raspberries, your blueberries, your blackberries. You want to be thinking things like, I say, Greek yogurt, then maybe chuck a scoop of whey protein, then make it like a sludge. Again, chicken breast, tuna, steak, turkey, ham, egg whites, low-fat dairy if tolerated well. These things throughout the course of the week are going to make sure that hunger actually stays low. And even on the day of the event, and we're going to get into that in a minute, you want to be beefing out your meals with these sorts of foods, not to save the calories, but to actually to keep you fuller for longer, and to really make sure that the cravings stay nice and low and we're not craving a bunch of crap and sugar along the way. Now, secondarily to that, before the event, right, we use something inside 23 Lean called the AWW hack prior to events. And what that is that apple water and whey hack. And if we consider that volume, so food volume, and when I say food volume, just so we're all clear, it's in reference to the fact that certain foods yield different amounts of weight associated with them, which are going to cause you to feel more or less full. Let me compare a small bowl of Haribo for say 200 calories worth, and to try and get the same amount of calories from say raspberries, you would have to eat absolute punnets full, just because they're so low calorie and high volume. So you want to be thinking about these foods. But essentially, before an event, about half an hour before an event, I want you to have an apple. I want you to put a scoop of whey protein powder, even more points if you can use casein protein powder, because it's essentially it creates like a gel in the gut and it digests very slowly, and it just is very, very thick. It's very viscous. Okay. But if you don't have access to that, a scoop of whey and water is fine. And again, a pint of water. So again, your shaker cup, scoop of whey or casein, okay, nice big shaker cup, your apple, bang that in half an hour before the event, and you're going to be annoyed at how full and that you feel as quickly as it actually turns up in terms of satiety in the brain. Okay, we're going to turn on all those mechanisms responsible for satiety by using this little kind of like preload meal, so that if you are going into a position whereby it is a bit of a buffet, or I don't know, someone else has cooked you some super indulgent food, that we're actually not starving going into the event. Again, that is the one scenario in which we're looking to avoid, because assuming that you're going to have the willpower to behave yourself during that event is just wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. You know it and I know it. And then finally, the last one is, this is so key. Like I cannot even begin to tell you how key this is. We're going to use something called fat loss sprints versus traditional dieting. And again, it's what I use with all my guys and gals inside 23 Lean. And essentially what it means is, if we think of traditional dieting, right? And we've got like a little graph there. We're going to start from here, and then we're going to basically reach our end goal, okay? And most people think it's in a straight line. Now, what we know is that, dieting more so often than not looks a little bit like this. Yeah, we plateau, we go up a little bit, we go down a little bit, up a little bit. It's a terrible line, but you know what I mean. There's ups and there's downs. I'm sure you've seen the similar graphs on social media, being like, oh, progress isn't linear, all the rest of it. And whilst I get that, we can be so much more effective and potent. And actually, in my experience of coaching, like I say, hundreds of clients before, The thing which trips people up is when they can't see any sort of like light at the end of the tunnel. That's what really kind of annoys people. But if they can, people can pretty much be disciplined for like a 4, 6, even an 8 week period, as long as they know that it's ending after that. If you just chuck someone in the dungeon with no light and no kind of hope, and just kind of put them in this chronic calorie deficit, that's not a very nice feeling, and that's not a very it's not a feeling in which you're going to be able to stick to for so long, because there's only so much, hunger and punishment you're going to deal with yourself. But if you're actually like, right, I'm going to put my head down for a 6 week period, I'm going to put my head down for an 8 week period, then most people can do that and get the job done. So probably the biggest kind of change and just kind of benefit in which I've used with my coaching practice over the past probably 3 to 5 years, it is these fat loss sprints. And basically, rather than sort of like lifestyle dieting, whereby we basically try and diet, but ultimately, if it doesn't happen, it's like, okay, cool, we'll try again next week. It's like, no, when we're dieting, we're dieting. When we're not, okay? We go through very distinct, purposeful, and potent phases inside 23 Lean. We've got a 5-step roadmap. And when we're in the chisel phase of the program, we're in the chisel phase of the program. When we're in the flow phase of the program, we're in the flow phase of the program, okay? One of them is used to diet, to strip body fat. One of them is used to maintain. So our graph essentially looks like this. We diet a little bit, okay? Again, that's 6 to 8 week period, but then we purposefully hold it, okay? We diet a little bit, we purposefully hold it. We go again, we hold it, we go again, we hold it, we go again, we hold it, we go again, we hold it. And before you know it, bosh, we reach our goal. This does 2 things. Number 1 is that when we reach there, we drastically reduce the likelihood that we're going to rebound right back to the start, which you've probably done before, or at least you know someone who's done that, okay? We don't want that whatsoever. But also, if you think about it, right, at some point you are going to reach your fat loss goal, and you're going to need to know how to maintain. And generally, people are great at gaining weight, obviously, and people are great at losing weight. Just pick any method, it works. People are very poor at maintaining their new weight. So what we're actually doing here is practicing how to maintain a new body fat percentage, a new body fat set point, practicing the standards, the habits, the routines, the mindset needed, so that once we get here, it's not so much of a shock, because we've done these little kind of mini phases in between. And again, a lot of people say to me, well, aren't you just lengthening out this process? But for me, it's like, let's do it once right, so you never have to fucking do it again in your whole life. And this is the what I call fat loss sprints, and it works phenomenally well. Okay, so when we're dieting, short-term restriction, but then we're in the maintenance, we've got so much more freedom, flexibility, and that flow phase is absolutely key. Honestly, this is one of them ones whereby if you just continue to scroll and get on with your day-to-day life and how you've been doing things, you'll likely be stuck in that binge purge cycle, which literally I was for so long. And a lot of people who come to me are. However, if you just implement those 3 core killer tips, which I've just given you, essentially your whole week is going to look that much better. And if we can both agree and appreciate that consistency really is the key to success, and it's more about what you do over time rather than on a day-to-day period, you need to rack up enough days to be consistent so that you actually get the results in which you want. And one way to be consistent is by actually nailing your weekends so that you don't fall victim of just absolutely tearing it come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, only to get back on plan on Monday. It's just exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. Now, anyway, there are 1 of 3 ways in which we can now move forwards, and I can give you an even more insight into my world, who I am, and how I can potentially help you out. So number 1 is go ahead and look in the links below for a free muscle building course. If you're a little bit on the smaller side and want to pack on some tissue, look amazing in your t-shirts and what have you, want to actually put on some size, you can go ahead and enroll into the Muscle Advantage course. It's still currently free, so make sure you go ahead and do that. If you're looking for more in-depth step-by-step know-how as to how to drop body fat so you can actually get leaner, go ahead and download the fat loss formula. Again, links below. Or if you just want to skip all of that and essentially get the fastest possible results and join me inside 23 Lean for version 2 of our program, launching very shortly, cannot wait for that, absolutely buzzing, then just go ahead and book a call with me on my private diary where we can have a back and forth. I can understand more about you, your goals, your timeframes, all that good stuff, where we need to get to. I can talk to you more about what we do and how we can help if I think it's going to be a good fit. And again, there's only 1 or 2 options. Either you come away with the game plan in which you execute yourself, but now it's bespoke to you, you know what to do, or you realize that partnering with me is just going to basically shortcut the whole process and we get you some sick results, just like the hundreds and hundreds of guys and gals inside 23 Lean. Looking forward to catching you in the next one. Peace.